Thom Hartmann here on the best of the rest of labor and economic news. You need to know this. As Republican lawmakers and presidential hopefuls continue to fantasize about more massive budget cuts, economists are figuring out how much austerity really devastates a nation. Last month, the German Institute for Macroeconomic Research released their report on the damage that harsh austerity measures have done to the nation of Greece. According to that report, poor people in Greece have lost 86% of their income because of austerity, but the wealthiest households in that nation lost less than 20%. To add insult to injury, the richest Greeks only saw their taxes increase about 9%, but those at the lower end of the income scale saw their taxes rise by more than 300%. And according to that report, public employees were hit the hardest by extreme austerity measures, with most losing about a quarter of their income. These numbers are not just statistics, these are human lives, and they represent everything that could happen in the United States if Republicans have their way. Harsh austerity measures wreak havoc on an economy, as we've seen in Greece, but these cuts have a far larger human cost. Wherever they're enacted, these cuts have a disproportionate effect on the poor, and they widen the gap between the haves and the have-nots. Greece may be the extreme, as the cuts that nation has endured are far larger than the austerity imposed on other nations. However, the end result is and always will be the same. You can't cut your way to prosperity, regardless of which nation you happen to call home. These cuts have destroyed the lives of thousands of Greeks, and austerity will have the same effect here if Republicans get the additional cuts that they desire. And this is one of the most important reasons that we need to fight in 2016. The next election could have dire consequences on our economy and our fellow Americans, and it may be our last chance to stop austerity from destroying our nation, too. Kansas Governor Sam Brownback must hate the poor. Thanks to a new bill signed by Brownback earlier this month, welfare recipients are prohibited from withdrawing more than $25 in benefits per day. And each one of those daily withdrawals will cost recipients $1, which means that more benefits will go to the banksters than to the poor. In addition, Brownback and his cronies in Kansas also want to make sure that poor people never have a chance to relax. This new legislation bans welfare benefits from being used at swimming pools, liquor stores, fortune tellers, and on cruise ships, as if people on welfare have so much extra money to spend on booze and vacations. This is just another attempt to demonize the poor with the added benefit of handing the banksters a little extra cash. Treating welfare recipients like criminals is nothing new, but the people of Kansas need to make it clear that Brownback's ridiculous new law goes too far. It isn't easy to get into Stanford University, but the cost of tuition is no longer an issue for some of the students who get accepted. Last week, that prestigious university announced that they will waive the tuition fees of students from households that make less than $125,000 a year. And parents who earn less than $65,000 a year will be spared room and board expenses as well. According to the university, students will only be required to contribute $5,000 a year, which they should be able to make through a summer job or by doing part-time work throughout the school year. Tuition, books, travel, and other expenses can bring the cost of Stanford to over $60,000 a year, which can price kids out of the system even when they come from upper-middle-class families. But thanks to this policy, students who make the grades to get into Stanford won't be held back by that hefty price tag. If Stanford University can understand that college education should be affordable, our lawmakers should understand the same. Last week, McDonald's announced that they're giving workers a raise, but don't start heaping praise on that company just yet. According to a recent article by Zed Jelani over at Alternet, that pay hike is more about public relations than about paying workers a living wage. As Zed explains, as always, the devil is in the details. That raise only applies to employees at company-owned locations, which means that about 90% of McDonald's workers won't see the larger check. The fast food giant also announced that they will provide paid leave for employees after 1 year on the job, but rapid employee turnover at McDonald's means most workers will never qualify. These changes are an improvement over low-wage, no-vacation policies that were in place, but they need to be expanded to all stores, including franchises. It's obvious that McDonald's knows people want higher wages and better benefits, and it's time for the company to do more than just a PR campaign. And finally, here's a news flash for Republicans. If you want more people to work, you need to increase welfare benefits instead of cutting them. According to a huge study spanning 18 countries and 19,000 recipients, providing generous welfare benefits makes someone more likely to want a job. The authors of the study explained that employment commitment was much higher in all the studied groups in bigger welfare states. In other words, they found the notion of people on welfare being lazy was the exact opposite of the truth. And the higher the welfare benefits, the more people wanted to work. Based on this logic, Republicans should want to strengthen our social safety net instead of destroying it. The idea that poor people just want to sit around collecting checks is a myth, and we finally got the science to prove it. Nations with strong social safety nets have stronger employment than we have, and it's time to rethink our history of demonizing the poor. We can afford to do better, and the science shows that it's in our best interest as a nation to do so. And that's the way it is for the week of April 13th, 2015. I'm Thom Hartmann on Labor and Economic